saw that thing, saw that thing on Twitter about all the people who left Pittsburgh in memoriam.
I cracked up so hard.
Oh, it's somebody did a takeoff on the Oscar building and all the dead people. But it's in memoriam. It's like Antonio Brown, Landry Jones throwing an interception. He'll show it to you. It's like Pirates. It's Steelers. It's worth it.
Josh Harrison, yeah.
I watched
All
Somebody's leg.
It's possible.
I apologize. It's okay. It looks like you were just happy for just hanging out of hand. Yeah. It was also long.
No claps for Landry Jones.
Responsible slave. Antonio Brown's jersey. 2012 hyphen 1800 degrees.
But I'm glad.
It's pretty good work.
It's pretty clear labels.
When people get offended, they burn the jersey, don't they?
Burn it, they burn it, they burn it.
That's too much.
It's as good as there is there.
That was for Yinzers, that's right.
That's what it is. That was good.
myself and A-Duck were discussing when we got here, the question for Prince will be, you know, do you feel like all those false starts prepared you, you know,
Did it get you ready?
and to get you ready? And,
I don't know the league well enough to know.
the purpose of the false start on the first series of the Rose Bowl is that just to let everybody, let them know this is what you'll be missing.
This is what's up. So,
Yeah.
it's a bold strategy.
They're real great.
Standing on side.
I don't know, it's interesting with availability.
No, I think Austin said it best. He said he was just in a hurry to go block that. That's all it was. I mean,
That's not what I had to be.
conscientious.
I don't,
Yeah.
it's his video, right?
3 hours over.
It's loud and packed students in there.
Yeah, at least, you know, he got the goals over there.
What's the one? When they get going, it really gets loud.
I worked in Baltimore for 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
Had age on it. Held a post so originally
Originally,
just like, it looked impressive. Got a wall of students.
yeah, I mean, basically, the size of the court.
Probably the first 5-6 rows are all students, and then
Behind the basketball side.
Giant cat.
As I wonder, thinking back to that first Iowa game, what sticks out when you look back on that game? You guys led at halftime, and then they kind of got away in the second half. But what sticks out to you when you think back on that first matchup?
Mostly just letting up in the second half. I feel like we thought it was a win. I feel like going into the second half, we didn't have the same intensity and came out with the same toughness as we did the first time in the first half.
Coach Holtmann said after the game that he thought you played decently hard, but you didn't play smart enough as a team in that game. Do you think, I don't know, from a general intelligence standpoint, do you think you guys are playing smarter than you were at that time of the year? Do you think you guys have gotten smarter as a team since then?
I mean, it's definitely something that we still got to work on, is playing smarter. But I think since the Iowa game, we've definitely took a lot of steps towards playing smarter.
Like what?
Less fouling. I mean, other than a few games, I mean, he's stayed out of foul trouble a little bit more since then. So that's probably the biggest thing. And less turnovers. That's probably another big thing.
You guys had 21 turnovers against Iowa, and when you look back at that, did you see any common reasons for why it happened in that specific game that you guys know that you can't have happen again?
Most of them just being unforced, just mental errors on our part and not being focused.
Then Justin Arms, Chris Holtmann has said that he saw him on the bench and given energy, and that's one of the reasons that he started in the second half of the other game. He comes in and plays 27 minutes or so this last game. What have you guys seen from him in the past few weeks that have led to where he is right now?
Just the energy that he brings. I mean, like Coach Holt said, I mean, the energy he brought on the bench, and then just every day in practice, the energy that he brings just brings us to another level, kind of, and obviously his ability to shoot the three. I mean, that always helps us as a team. So,
yeah, this team's numbers are all really healthy with victories and the net, and you got two really nice non-conference wins over UC and Creighton. What about getting a Big Ten win? And I'm talking about Iowa, Maryland, Wisconsin, those guys. Is there more thought because you're running out of opportunities right now in the regular season?
Yeah, Coach was saying the other day, these next couple weeks, every game's going to be the biggest game of the year. You know, it's just that's how we got to approach every game, I feel like, going forward.
To piggyback on that, Andre, you made the comment a couple games ago afterwards that, that was a game you guys couldn't really lose. And I'm curious, after Chris Holtmann tells you guys that, do you sense that among the teammates that everyone is buying into, hey, these games are even bigger than maybe they would be if this were the middle of the season?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everybody's kind of been emphasizing that over the past couple of days and probably the last few weeks and stuff, just how important these next few games are if we want to keep playing and make it to the NCAA tournament, just how big it is and how much harder we have to play.
Did you what did you see? That's a big step for a freshman because you guys were freshmen once.
Yeah, I'm happy for him, man. You know, he works hard. He works hard just as hard as everybody else for him to get his chances. It's nice. You know, he hits shots. He helps spread the floor out, so he brings a lot to the game.
You guys talk a lot, even when things are going well, about trying to get better defensively. And I just wonder, at this point of the season, where you guys think you are as a team defense?
I think it varies some games. Some games will be a very good defensive team, and then other games you'll see it's just part of the playing smarter, just less fouling and not getting back cut and things like that. But I think it's been more consistent since the first time we've played Iowa, but there's definitely ways to go.
Are you getting closer to where you think that's something you guys can really hang your hat on, is that you're going to bring a defensive attitude or a defensive mindset every night?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we try to hang our hats on, is just playing good defense. And, I mean, we're working on it every day, so it's something that we should be able to hang our hats on.
When you look at the matchup that you guys played against Iowa last time, it looked like Luka Garza and Tyler Cook kind of led that team to success, especially in the second half. What have you seen out of them in terms of watching that film from the last game? What do they do well? What do you have to do to defend well against those two?
So they steal really well. You know, they look for them all the time. You know, they're getting multiple touches in the possession. You know, they're guys that they really focus on to get the ball offensively. And it's always tough to guard guys like that who are really good, got a lot of touch, can shoot the ball from outside a little bit.
And when we've asked this multiple times, but it's another ranked matchup for you guys, and it seems like this season has not found a lot of success against ranked opponents. I'm just wondering, has the mentality changed based on if there's a number before the team, or is it just kind of same old throughout Big Ten play?
No, you have to approach every game the same way. You know, like I said, every game from now here is the biggest game of the season. So we have to go into practice and think, well, our biggest game is Tuesday. Our biggest game is such whenever we play next. So.
Caleb, what was your thought when Andre had his reverse dunk?
I ain't seen it since high school. No, I didn't know he still had that.
Andre, what was going through your mind?
I mean, I just saw the open court and I just did it. You know,
What's it like for you two guys to be sitting up here together as brothers talking to us? What is I know there's been so many things you guys have gotten to do together at this level, but just a moment like this, I'm sure talking to the media is not at the top of the list of things you like to do as a college basketball player, but what is it like to be the two Ohio State team reps today, and you guys are brothers? What's that like?
It's just a blessing. You know, there's not a lot of people in the country who have brothers and they can sit up here and talk to you guys. So, like I said, it's a blessing. You know, you got to thank God.
What's it like for you?
Yeah, what he said, I mean, it's a blessing. I mean, it's something that we've talked about since we were younger, just being able to do this and for it to come true. Like you said, you just got to thank God. It's a blessing.
When one of you says something, is the other one thinking, "Oh, he's full of crap," or like things like that? Like, are you like kind of critiquing each other mentally while you're sitting up there?
Nah.
I would be with my brother.
Okay, Iowa, terrific team, having a really good season. A lot of veteran guys. Obviously, Bohannon's exploits, particularly late, have been well documented. But Garza, Cook, they've got a terrific core of guys. They play 8-9 guys, and they all 8-9 guys, and they all really seem to have a great feel for kind of their role and playing their role at a high level, which often happens with the veteran group. And they've got some young guys that have really helped them. McCaffrey really plays to win in that point guard position. They've got a really good team. Fran's done a great job with them. They've got a really good team, and obviously put together a really good season.
Chris, two things. An update on CJ?
Yeah, CJ was able to practice. So, unless he's feeling something different today in practice, we would expect him to play.
The big takeaway from Maryland from a wide-angle in second half, you needed 3-point scoring. You needed somebody to step forward. Obviously, had a couple freshmen do a very nice job of that for you, made some big shots for you. How much of their continued influence do you need to open up defenses and continue to provide that distance threat?
Yeah, I think, I don't know if you can count on necessarily how we shot it there in the second half to be, how we're going to shoot it every half. We certainly have very capable shooters. I think when you look at where a lot of our points are coming from, I think we're third in the league in our points coming from the three-point line. And I think our guys, we've got good shooters, and our guys have played off of Caleb at times, and that's opened some things up. Obviously I would like to see us do some other things better, but probably most of all, we made some shots in that second half, and that allowed us to get it from 16 to 2. Same. In the Iowa game, the first go around, they really. I mean, it wasn't really close in the second half. They kind of manhandled us there in the second half, and overwhelmed us. And a credit to them. But it was good to see our guys with their fight and then making shots here in the second half in the Maryland game.
After that first game, you said that you thought your guys played harder than maybe in some of the games prior, but you didn't play smarter. Can a team get smarter over the course of a season? Sometimes we talk about basketball IQ, and you either know stuff or you don't. Can a team get smarter over the course of a season?
Yeah, I think so. For sure. And it's my responsibility and our responsibility as coaches to try to take some steps forward in that area. And I think we have in terms of our fouling and in terms of some of our turnovers, but we're not there yet. I'm not satisfied with where we are yet in that area.
Andre said the same thing, turnovers and fouling. Those are areas that have gotten better since that Iowa game. And we've talked a lot about the fouling, but not just specific to Caleb. Is that, I guess, is that through film? Is that through, can you get better at that? Can you practice that? Or is that just something that guys, as they get smarter, learn how to not foul?
Yeah, I think that helped. I mean, I think that clearly guys getting older and playing through some of those experiences and understanding what they can and can't do, in both in turnovers and in fouls, the experience factor cannot be understated or overstated, excuse me. But we're well into some of these guys' sophomore or junior or freshman season, and obviously they need to. Even though we have Justin, who's playing more now, and he had a foolish foul, and so did Dwayne the other day. We've got to get those guys making better decisions.
After what they did against you guys in their first matchup, what have you seen, I guess, in video of kind of Tyler Cook and Luka Garza? Kind of how would you scout them? How would you plan for them going into this game Tuesday?
They're just big, physical, strong. Obviously, Cook's. I don't know. We have a lot of athletic guys, frontline guys in our league. When you think about it, we just played a really athletic frontline guy, but he's up there in terms of his fast twitch and his ability to be explosive around the rim, and we saw that up close there. I think they're a load because they have really good shooting around them, and in Garza's case, he can step out and shoot it. But they have really good shooting around them, which puts a priority on covering them. And they're physical. They're two strong, older, physical guys. Last year when we played both of those guys, Cook was kind of a known commodity. But Garza, I was so impressed with Garza last year when we played him. And he's proven that as good of a player as he is.
And over the past 2 games, you've seen the emergence of Justin Arns, and I'm just wondering, is that kind of something that you plan to continue to do, keep him in the starting lineup, or is that kind of a fluid spot still that you're kind of trying to figure out who's going to be the guy in that spot?
Yeah, I think it's always pretty fluid, but we'll see if he continues to make the right plays on both ends, and we'll see what kind of production he gives. But it's all that I think that position's probably going to be fluid the whole year or the rest of the year.
Chris, there's been talk all year, even in the preseason, about your guard play and having to mix and match, and CJ maybe being out of position. But when you take him off the roster for a game or more than one game, how much of an added test is that for you as a coach to make another adjustment, maybe put another guy out of position?
Yeah, I think the only difficult thing with it is if we could have prepared a little bit more. We just didn't know until we were in practice that day, the day before, that he was struggling. So I think if you have a little bit of time to prepare, it does help you as a coach. At least you feel like you can maybe try to put guys in position better. But I don't think it really honestly impacted our team significantly, and it typically doesn't in maybe a game or two. We certainly would have loved to have had him. I think where it did hurt us the other day was when CJ is playing well, he gives us another really solid perimeter defender, and he also gives us a guy who can make shots. And I think we did probably miss those two things, particularly when you got a guy like Cowan that you're trying to defend.
Going back to Justin, when you give a guy his first career start like that, and especially a guy who hadn't played a ton this season, do you notice, when you tell him that his eyes light up, do you see an extra bounce in his step? I mean, is there something to, hey, this is your first start as a college player?
I'm sure he was excited. I don't know that I noticed anything outside of, just preparing him for the game, but I'm sure he was excited. He's got to be able to manage any kind of excitement with, my biggest thing for Justin is, he's got to keep growing. He's got to grow in his understanding of how to play the way we need him to play offensively and defensively. And he's got to play with great confidence. And some of that is also understanding moving quickly on to the next play. Whether whatever happens, whether he makes a shot or misses a shot or whatever happens. But I was pleased with his overall effort. And as I said after the Northwestern game, he's been a kid that's been very engaged in our team's success. And I think, as I mentioned, what you typically see with guys this time of year is if they're really engaged in the team's success, then they just tend to play better. And he's a good example of that.
Andre and Caleb were talking kind of about a sense of urgency. There's only so many games left, and you've got stuff you guys still want to prove. Are you sensing that from the players? Is that something you as a staff have addressed? I'm just curious if that just is coming from them or if that's something you guys are.
I mean, we've talked about it, but I don't know. You got to be living probably in a cave if you don't have that feeling, or you just don't. I think those two guys care, and most every kid does. But the ones that really care this time of year are the ones that play with that urgency. And we'll see. We'll see how that plays out in our play, right? We can say it, but we'll see how it plays out in how we play.
Is there any one player this season where, like, they've taken a stride that, like, at the beginning of the season you would have never thought that they'd be at this point? As far as from a development standpoint?
I don't know that there's, I would say, I think there have been several guys that have had really good stretches of play where you said, man, he's really getting better. He's really growing and improving and expanding his game. I mean, I could say that honestly about several of our guys. The Wessons, Luther, I think Dwayne's had important moments. Justin, Kyle Young, before he really got injured, I think we were feeling that way. I think all of those guys, I could say, have made some real strides forward that I don't know that you say, hey, you don't anticipate it as a coach. You're optimistic that they'll continue to grow from one year to the next. And I think we have seen that with the guys that have returned and some of those new guys. That's been good. It's been good to see kind of Dwayne fight through some things and continue to grow and make an impact in those other guys. So I don't know if I'd point to one. I'd probably point to several of those guys that they've had good moments. They've also had some frustrating moments, but I think definite times where we felt as a coaching staff, man, they continue to improve.
And do you guys discuss mental errors often? Because you see with Justin, one side of the floor, he'll make a game-changing play, and then he'll come down to the other floor and do something to pretty much erase what he just did on one end. So are mental errors a constant thing you guys talk about?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, sure do.
I know you've talked about how you don't look at all the bracketology stuff, but folks who do that say that you need to upset a team or two down the stretch. And when you look at what you guys have had, you guys have had a pretty strong resume against teams below you and haven't been able to get a lot done above you.
Yeah.
What is that about this group that they've taken care of business, teams that technically are ranked below them and still haven't been able to get the wins above them in some time?
Yeah, I don't know. I'll let you guys make those kind of statements at the end of the year. I'm not sure what that says. We obviously do have some very good teams in this closing stretch. It's a very difficult closing stretch, and obviously you saw Northwestern almost beat Wisconsin the other day. I mean, it's going to be a very difficult closing stretch, but one that if you're a player and a coach, listen, I mean, we all know kind of what was said about this group earlier in the year before the season got started, and we've got an opportunity here, to see how we can finish. We'll get what we earn, and I'm sure, obviously, you hope that you can finish well, whatever that looks like. But man, we that's the exciting thing is you have an opportunity here, and you have an opportunity that not a lot of college teams have right now. This is kind of the time where, teams realize, hey, they don't have those opportunities. They're not playing for as much, or they are. And, that's an exciting thing for our group. It's fun, stressful, however you want to look at it. We choose to say it's fun, and we'll see. We'll get what we earn. We will get what we earn.
Dwayne, you mentioned Justin and how sometimes he can be infectious in some way. Dwayne, when you said the other day that when he's played well, you guys have tended to play well too. Is he someone in the same vein where when he's excited, it seems like things are going well?
I think that's his personality in general. He's a really kind of outgoing kid. He just is. He's got an infectious way about him and personality. He's social, and that sometimes those guys can be that way off the court. It doesn't necessarily translate on the court. For him, it does. Same thing with Justin. Same thing with Luther. I've always mentioned Jay's a little bit quieter, but those freshmen, that's just who they are, and I think it plays itself out on the court. And then sometimes, they can get too excited on the court. And it plays itself out into, as we mentioned, some mental errors. but that's part of us. We've got to continue to teach and work on those things.
We've asked you a lot about Justin recently. He's obviously taken some of Musa's minutes. How has Musa handled a little bit of a reduced role at this point of the season?
You'd have to ask him. I don't want to speak for him, but from my perspective, fine. Yeah, fine. I think you can't play everybody. And, at this point in the year, you're kind of making decisions. You'd love to be able to play 10, 11 guys because you love all your players. But at this point in the year, you're saying, hey, what do you and your coaching staff feel like is best for your team? And the other guys that aren't playing have to be ready. So,
am I off base in saying when I've seen him in the game, he still seems to attack the glass as hard as he ever has? He might be one of your best above the rim rebounders.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. I think he's, I think he's done some things when we're constantly continuing to encourage him to rebound, because that's an area where he can really, really impact the game is his rebounding. And I don't think it's affected that, and his attitude has been good from my perspective.
Ask about Luther. Seemed like he was 1 for 8 perhaps there in the game on Saturday, and now something like 5 of his last 30 to 35. I don't know the exact number, but what do you obviously need his defense, and that's an important part of what he brings, but are you happy with the shots he's been taking? And he's still shooting close to 40% on three-pointers for the season, but just these last 4 or 5 games have been a little bit of a struggle for him.
Yeah, not happy with all of his shots, but he's had some really good ones. He's had some really good ones that he'll make. I'm completely confident he'll make them. He came out and sat the other last game because he was turning it over, so that's why he came out. But he's a tremendous kid and has had a real impact on this team, and I'm confident that as long as he keeps working and taking good shots, good things will happen.
In the wing play, bad turnover, but it kind of appears he gets back in position to defend the play and gets shoved in the head and called for a foul.
Yeah.
Perhaps because the official, and not a fault of his own, can't get back there to see the play, but just one of those bad breaks, I guess. But kind of puts himself in that position by the bad turnover to start.
Yeah, it's an offensive foul in the NBA. Yeah, it's clearly an offensive foul. The guy's not even trying to make a basketball play. He's trying to seek contact and run into the defender, and those are always offensive fouls. So, it just was a play that at some point, we'll notice probably here in a year that'll get called an offensive foul. Those things typically happen. Okay. All right, guys.